Switches connect to the SAN through individual links called ePorts, trunking, and port channels. A single link that carries a single vSAN is called an ePort. You can also have a single link that is trunking or carrying multiple vSANs, and that is called a trunking ePort or expansion port. And finally, just like in Ethernet, you can have a port channel where you have multiple physical links that make up one logical link and look like a single link to the system, and this is called a port channel. You can also engineer the way traffic flows across these links by adding or removing vSANs similar to the way that you would add and remove a VLAN. This way you get the most efficient use of your inter-switch link bandwidth. You can have up to 16 links combined into a port channel, and this increases your aggregate throughput by distributing traffic across the links in the port channel. There are also different algorithms it uses to load balance across the multiple links, and these can be customized. If one link fails, traffic that was previously carried on that link is then switched to the remaining links. And to the upper level protocols and the switch, this logical link is still there, even though a physical link may have gone down and bandwidth might be diminished. Once again, the way that we connect switches is by expansion ports or ePorts, and these ePorts can carry a single VLAN, or it could be a trunking ePort or a TE port that carries multiple vSANs, or it could be that it's part of a port channel and it's trunking and an expansion port. So there's multiple ways to configure ports and switches to connect to each other. There is also a technology called N-port virtualization, and this is where two switches work together. There is an NPV switch that utilizes a NPIV functionality to allow a switch to act like a server, performing multiple fabric logins through a single physical link. This means the NPV switch actually doesn't do any local switching. It proxies connections up to a parent switch that is running the NPIV feature, and that switch actually does all the logging into the fabric for the devices on that port. On the parent switch, or the NPIV switch, it is configured just like any other end host port. On the NPV switch, we configure an NP port, or virtualized node port. There are several advantages to this. First of all, the Fibre Channel Edge switch that's running in NPV mode does not take up a domain ID. There are only a certain amount of domain IDs available for any given Fibre Channel network. This helps to alleviate the exhaustion of domain IDs, and it also makes configuration much easier. So again, if I have servers connected to an NPV switch, as those servers log into the network, those logins are proxied to an NPIV switch, which actually logs them into the network on that switch. To the NPIV switch, the NPV switch actually looks like a VMware host that may have multiple servers sitting behind it. All of your zoning and configuration will be done on the NPIV core switch. Next, when we connect two switches together, they actually negotiate buffer-to-buffer credits. If you remember, buffer-to-buffer credits are a way to control that we don't drop any Fibre Channel frames on a Fibre Channel network. Depending upon the distance of the link, we need to ensure that we have enough buffer-to-buffer credits to allow efficient communication across that link. For instance, a full Fibre Channel frame is approximately 1 kilometer long at 2 gigabits per second. it's about 1/2 kilometer long at 4 gigabits per second and 1/4 kilometers long at 8 gigabits per second. So as the distance increases, the number of available buffer-to-buffer credits needs to increase as well. If I had insufficient buffer-to-buffer credits, I might be waiting for replies from the other switch before I could put more data on the link. For example, if I was running at 2 gigabits per second over a fiber channel link that was 10 kilometers long, and I only had 8 buffer-to-buffer credits, that means I could only put 8 1-kilometer long frames on the link. Therefore, I would not be filling up the link. For example, if I had a 10 km link and I was running at 2 gigabit speed, I know that I could fit 10 frames on that link at a time. So if my buffer-to-buffer credits were 8 and not 10 or 11 and 12, then I would run out of credits before I could fill the link, and I would be waiting for a response from the other side before I could put another frame on the link. So it's very important for longer links to make sure that you have enough buffer-to-buffer credits. Another way for switches to communicate with each other over long distances is fiber channel over IP. Fiber channel over IP is a way to encapsulate fiber channel frames into IP packets and tunnel them through an existing TCP/IP network. So if I had 2 data centers that I wanted to connect with fiber channel, but the distances were too great for my buffer-to-buffer credits or the optics that I had, I could encapsulate that and send it over a layer 3 IP network till it got to the other side where I unencapsulated it and turned it back into fiber channel. I can also take advantage of features like write acceleration to improve throughput and latency, and hardware compression to improve how much data I can fit in the pipe, as well as security features like IPsec encryption.